This video is sponsored by War Thunder. Stubby has always gotten the short end of the stick. Regarded by many as the worst of Engineer's primary weapons, and having the lowest pick rate of the three on Carl.gg, it's apparent that this little thing hasn't been a fan favorite. A little over a month ago, I tweeted just the name of the weapon, and the following replies solidify it even further. Shockingly bad from Sample, low tier primary from Dalton, and Primrose says, Stubby makes me want to eat sewage and vomit up blood all over a brand new $2,000 carpet. My goal here is to sway these sometimes very passionate Stubby skeptics. Right now is the best time to brush the dust off that sucker, replace the battery, and give the little fella one more chance. I promise you that this weapon performs much better than it did just one season ago. As of last year, it's my most used Engineer primary. You will be swimming in builds to try by the end of this video, courtesy not of me, but of my latest hire here at SNIS Corp, Electric Fish. And let me tell you, this guy, pretty cool guy. He's got this little translator thing so he can talk to you in the video. He's a really good fit for the job, I think. Interview process was a little intense, but I think it was worth it either way. There may be plenty of fish in the sea, but none of them got a resume like this guy. Pretty solid credentials. The Stubby Voltaic SMG is the first unlock you get for Engineer at a measly price. Engineer modified a Sabata 312 and wired it up to do the whole electricity thing, and it's neat to know Sabata is likely a weapons company within the DRG universe, though apparently they don't have a good record of manufacturing guns that people are fond of. The description also mentions that you should keep the thing away from water, which is actually the only reason there is no water biome in DRG. It's not like it's hard to program water and make it fun and also do all that in a procedural environment or anything, so it's definitely just the fact that the Stubby's in the game. Base stats are nothing to write home about. Not great with far away enemies, it fires pretty fast, but the mag size leaves a little bit to be desired. By default, it has a 25% electrocution chance, which is decent considering that effect slows and does damage over time. Default ammo supply is okay, and about what you'd expect from an Engineer primary. But believe me, this doesn't paint the full picture. We're gonna make the Stubby haters like this weapon one way or another. As stated earlier, the builds provided in this video are cooked up by Electric Fish here. All builds were tested in Standard Hazard 5. We have 4 lined up for you, all of which play pretty differently. But before that, a word from this video's sponsor. War Thunder is the most comprehensive vehicle combat game, and you can play it for free on PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. This is one of the most popular free-to-play titles available, boasting over 70 million players worldwide. Featuring over 2,500 tanks, planes, helicopters, and ships, you'll fight other players in vehicles from all throughout the past century. Firefights are engaging and intense, rounded off with detail-oriented vehicle design and faithful sounds to make the experience all the more fun to be a part of. Isn't that right, little fish guy? Damage to vehicles is complex, allowing you to strategically take out specific components, whether it's disabling weapons or setting off the fuel tanks. My favorite experiences have always been playing with my friends, and I would usually stick to messing around with the planes. It's easy to recommend since there's no upfront cost to play. Douglas is a pretty cool name, I'm not gonna lie. Download War Thunder for free by signing up with the link in the description or the pinned comment. For a limited time, you'll also get a free special bonus pack across all platforms. This gives you some premium vehicles, fancy blue skins, and a little Eagle of Valor decorator, which is pretty neat. You also get 100k Silver Lions to spend on vehicles and upgrades, and a 7-day premium account, and there's a few more things too. So what are you waiting for? It's a limited time deal, the game's free, go click that link in the description and give it a go with your friends. Thank you to War Thunder for sponsoring this video. The first build takes advantage of the brand new Hyper Alloy Assembly overclock from Season 5. This snappy son of a gun reduces spread and increases weak point damage at the cost of a pretty wicked vertical recoil, and also a little mag size reduction. Electric Fish provides the following gear modifications through his fancy display technology that hopefully will be a tax write-off. Tier 1 and 3, he selected damage ups. Ammo economy is tolerable and can be overlooked with this overclock. In Tier 2, Recoil Dampener is likely to be the go-to pick, as without it, you're going to have to manually compensate for that increased kick. If you're willing to tough through that, you could try the other options and see how you feel. Change to your taste or whatever they say, but we both agree that recoil dampener is our favorite. Tier 4 is conductive bullets. While weak point damage may seem like the better choice at a glance, we found the bonus damage applied to shocked enemies is just more forgiving with little damage difference. Tier 5's increased mag size brings things back up to normal and gives an extra 10 to work with. In practice, this build is pretty straightforward. Aim for weak points as best you can, and you'll feel great doing it. We recommend giving this one a go first if you haven't used the weapon in a while. It's precise, snappy, satisfying, and lethal. This build reminds us and many other players of how rifles feel in Counter-Strike games. And that's why the name of the build is like stupid and not really that funny. It's actually the fish came up with that, I didn't do anything. So if you're not a fan of the typical stubby feel, this might be up your alley. In contrast to the previous build, we have Stubway Surfers, which takes advantage of the microconductor add-on overclock. This received some new mechanics in Season 5, allowing it to not only electrify turrets, but also platforms. This comes with a hefty 120 ammo reduction and a slower rate of fire. We have some nice pairing suggestions, such as secondary synergies and grenades that bring the flavor out of this playstyle pretty nicely. Put up the modifiers, Fishboy. This time around we have 2, 3, 2, 2, 1. Tier 2 and 3 are our offsets to the negatives, returning ammo capacity back to base, and rate of fire is 1 point up from default. The rest of the modifiers benefit a playstyle where electric damage is common, but also quite a few bullets will be spent on shooting not bugs, so a bit more mag size will come in handy. Engineer somehow ended up being the class who shoots not at the bugs, but at things, and then the damage happens because of that. It's very weird, but I do like it. Don't get antsy now. Before you hop into a mission, you gotta mess with your platform gun. In our experience, equipping platform repellent is not recommended here, since the bugs will avoid your platforms with that repellent, and the electric fields are a little more finicky to use effectively. You might want to put it back on later, but I recommend not having it to start off and go from there. Just take the ammo increase instead. When put to test on Hoxies, this performs vastly different to the previous build. It is one of the most complex playstyles available in the game, in my opinion. Setting up structures can take some time and experience, but once you get the hang of it, you can really mess some bugs up. This build also provides more dopamine through other equipment choices that are so fun it was impossible to exclude them. Shard Diffractor's Plascrete Catalyst overclock usually sucks, but here it's an absolute blast. You can basically make a real-life sticky bug trap and then make it explode violently. If you're not a fan of the Arby's all our food keeps blowing up type build,
chicken.
Here's another Shard Diffractor build with efficiency tweaks, which deals more damage to electrified enemies because of Tier 5A. It works great across the board with the Stubby, so of course, you can use it here. Also, Inferno on Breach Cutter obviously works wonders, but what's new. Plasma Boosters and Proximity Mines are more fun for me here. This is one of the only times I ever change my grenades off lures, because it's just so fun in this setup. While this loadout is definitely not everyone's cup of tea, being pretty complex and timely to set up, we find the process and reward of doing it correctly just so fun and unique it's bound to be someone's favorite way to play Engineer. I highly recommend this if you want to have the most stimuli humanly possible on Engie. There are too many ways to hurt bugs in this one gun, and it's just peak Engie behavior. Moving back to something a bit more simple, we have an EM Refire Booster build. This increases the rate of fire significantly and gives you a little electric damage boost. The trade-off is the base spread is a tad bit worse. Here our fish friend chose 13123. Tier 5 brings that base spread just below standard. Tier 2 is kinda up to you again, but we're most happy with taking even more fire rate because getting that damage out faster is pretty handy. This build thrives in high single target damage, so a secondary that makes up for that lack of crowd control is best here. Breach Cutter is the obvious pick, but Volatile Impact Reactor on the Shard Diffractor is also solid. There isn't much else to say about this build. EM Refire Booster has been a popular pick on this weapon for ages now, and for good reason. It feels pretty wicked to put an immense amount of bullets out of a gun in such a short amount of time. If you're looking for quick single target damage at a bit of an ammo cost, this is exactly that. Last but not least is Shock Jock.
Shock Jock. What is Shock Jock humor we got here? Shock Jock.
This uses the turret EM discharge overclock, which is kinda like the Stubby's alternative to turret whip on the shotgun. When shooting a turret, this generates a large AoE explosion, damaging and electrifying enemies nearby. It comes with a slight decrease to mag size and -2 damage. Fish has selected 2-3-1-2-3. He says that tier 3 was the hardest decision, but went with the increased damage instead of ammo. Without it, the damage output is miserable, and sometimes you're gonna have to use it to take out enemies far away, even if it's few and far between. Tier 2 is up to preference as usual. All three are solid. We went with fire rate though. Play around with this option and see what you think is fun. In Tier 5, we went with mag size instead of electric arc because it just feels less useful with EM discharge being able to electrocute bugs more effectively. Having 2 sentries is preferred here. Obviously, being able to chain EM discharges back and forth is a lot more effective than having only 1 turret, and quick deploy is essential to reduce downtime while setting up sentries. In November 2023, they made it so EM discharge does not do friendly fire damage, which is amazing, so don't worry about hurting your team. You will hurt their eyes though when you're doing it, because it just covers your entire screen in lightning. This build is best in situations where you need to hunker down in choke points or defensive situations. You can also proc EM discharge on other players' sentries, and make sure your sentries are fully set up. It won't work if you try to shoot a sentry that isn't built fully. All grenades work well here, so mess around with those and figure out what you prefer. I like plasma bursters and lures the most. When put to the test, it feels pretty tactical, but not as intense to understand as microconductor add-on. If you enjoy the playstyle of turret whip on the shotgun, this could be a fun alternative. It's eye-catching, powerful, and lets you use the terrain to your best advantage. Knowing how to effectively use platform repellent can come in handy here too. I think the biggest hurdle for most players will be turret placement. That's probably the hardest part of this build. If you pick lures, it'll be a little more forgiving than plasma bursters, so maybe start with those and try to get some practice in before you switch it out.
Get ready for a real jock shocker.
It's hard to deny how good of a place Stubby is in after the changes throughout 2023 into 2024. Not only was the base weapon improved, but multiple overclocks had massive quality of life changes and buffs. Design-wise, it's just so solid too. I think the ammo count display on this is so slick. The little electric attachment on the side that rotates when you reload. And oh man, that reload is so snappy. I love the sound of the clip clicking in. It's not as noticeable with all the other sounds during a mission, but when you fire it, it has this little whirring electronic noise that builds up the longer you shoot, and it just sounds adorable. The reload also has this little electronic squeaky noise that the gun makes when it's, reloaded, and it sounds like it's happy that you gave it more bullets. It's so cute. Also, it's one of those guns where you can just spin it around nonstop, and I can't stop myself from doing it. In contrast to its small stature, the build variety is vast. As shown in this video, both unstable overclocks completely changed the playstyle to something very different, and it can even enable playstyles for secondaries you wouldn't previously consider, like Plascrete Catalyst. Microconductor add-on is also the first time I've ever considered taking bug repellent off my platforms, which is an interesting decision to have to make. All of this is to say, we're in the golden age of the Stubby Voltaic SMG. I mean, it even got the Electric Fish seal of approval, and that thing looks pretty slick. Especially if it was on the box of the game in the corner, kind of like a new funky mode kind of thing. It'd be really nice. They should do that. It's one of the best examples of how great DRG's equipment modifier system turned out. I hope you try out all the builds that are provided here from our new employee, and I'll have a link below to Fish's carl.gg page with all the builds easy to replicate from there. Before we end this off though, what's your favorite part of the Stubby, Lil Fish? Once again, thank you to War Thunder for making videos like this possible. Give the game a try on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, whatever your favorite platform is, by clicking the link below. Any new and returning players will receive premium vehicles, cosmetics, currency, and more. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you to the patrons who make this stuff possible, and go follow me on Twitter, or, just subscribe to the channel. I don't know. I don't have anything else to say. Look at all these cool names scrolling by though. Isn't that neat? There's more stuff coming soon. Sorry for the wait on this one. I hope you're all doing well. Rock and stone.
Right, Jeremiah, you're going in. You ready? You're in
What
the
do you mean
shock
going
jock
in?
him.
With the bizarre bargain?